Hello. Hi, Doruk. Good to be with you.
Hello, you
And
too.
hello, anybody who's watching this. Um, I was just saying to Doruk that, let's just introduce ourselves because in the past we've just gone straight into the conversation. But I thought
Yes.
just a quick intro maybe help contextualize if you're listening to us for the first time, okay, why you might want to listen or not. Um, yeah, so Doruk, would you want to do like just a quick intro of who you are and what you do?
Yes. So I used to be a business executive, but currently I define myself as a coach and innovation advisor. And I'm also a digital creator, talking about how we can bring more beauty into our world. So, first, how we can embody more beauty, bring our differences into the world in authentic ways, and hopefully create more of it. And this series actually emerged as a part of that exploration. Ethan connected to my message, and we started co creating together with the intention and inspiration to bring more of ourselves into the world and hopefully connect to like hearted and like minded individuals.
Yeah, yeah, and Derek, I love how you know, you really bridge those two worlds of the tech world that you came from and your current role, and um, you've shared stories before of how you, even when you were in the tech role, you tried to bring some of this
Yes,
humanity and more of the
yes,
heart and
yes.
art
Yeah,
into your role. So,
yeah.
we could touch on that if it's
Yeah,
relevant.
sure. So I
Yeah,
think
but
I've been
yeah.
always an artist in my heart, and I've been always a scientist in my mind. So by training, I'm an engineer and I had my MBA degree. So in the last 2 decades in my life, I've been primarily operating in innovation space, but mostly in the mind heavy world, in the Western world. But because I had that sensitive heart in me that always looks things from an artistic point of view, deep and sensitive. And I'm a poet, I write poetry, and recently I'm exploring additional venues. I was a dancer before. I took a quite long pause. Right now I am bringing that back into my life too, but I think in the business world as well, I've been always trying to integrate more of that whole dimension of my own humanity, but also invite others to bring all of themselves. And I think that's a very important gap I see currently in the world. When we are practicing business, we take it so seriously, and sometimes we leave our humanity at the door. We just have to be so mental, but there is so much power in bringing all of our humanity, including our vulnerabilities, including our sensitive side, including our artistic side. And I personally believe that that's the only way that we can create authentic things that could not be replicated by machines and the technology. I think machines are doing a lot better in terms of synthesizing what has been done in different combinations, and us as humans have the innate power of bringing unique things that didn't exist before, and that can only come if we are really connected to our hearts, if we can bring that artistic dimension, that intuitive imaginative dimension back to the business world too. So I've been practicing this in the context of business. I think I am more passionate about working with the founders, working with the creators, to bring more of that boldness, that authenticity back into the world. So, in a nutshell, I think I am also a supporter of conscious business concept and bringing more of the consciousness, more of the humanity into how we do business, because I truly believe that business has a healing power. It's one of the most powerful institutions in the world. And if we can bring humanity back to the business and use business to create more goodness in the world, we have a better chance to heal our world and hopefully not have so many of the problems that we see in the world today.
Mm, yeah, yeah, I love
So
that.
about you, Ethan, that was long, but you invited me.
I love that because our topic is creating from wholeness, and what you just shared, it really is an example of that. Right? What do we mean by wholeness? Well, you just shared like humanity, the sides of you that you in the past you, you probably would have felt were not represented at work or were not welcome at work even,
Yeah.
and probably a lot of people have felt that. So that's already like a big piece uh, of what we're talking about. Why should somebody leave that part of themselves at the door when they go work,
Yes.
right? And I know when I was growing up, I always found it really weird when you know, I saw this business world as this very sterile environment, you know,
Yeah.
like everybody was very professional,
Dressed up well.
and then straight faced, and it was very serious. And then when you're done with your work, then you can go play and have fun and
Exactly.
whatever and talk about fun stuff. Um, and that's obviously changing. You know, you have different ways that it's changing, like even things like Simon Sinek when he was talking about start with why.
Hmm.
You know, he's touching on that. He's like, okay, people are more than this manufacturing or efficiency process, or they're more than this
Yes.
number crunching, goal achieving machine, right? There's something innate to them, uh, which is missing. And I think that's, yeah, kind of what you were touching on. So to introduce myself quickly, it's like, yeah, I've been on that journey as well. Very left brain, very analytical. So, I did computing, I studied finance, and right now I'm a transformational coach. Um, I work with people on the level of who they are and helping them be more of who they are, helping them see where they have constrained who they can be or who they believe they are, and then removing those obstacles so that who they really are starts to be expressed more and more in the world, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, with the relationships. And there's a lot of beauty that comes with that. Um, but also, people are really often surprised by how they create more in the world when they do
Yeah.
that, because it seems that a lot of us have this conflict of, I can either be this goal achieving machine, or I can be this artist who lays about on the beach.
Yeah. Does
and,
nothing and
I,
enjoys the
and I
beauties of
do
the world.
nothing. Yeah, and nothing gets done.
Yeah.
But that's really not true, because um, flow, people can relate to the concept of flow.
Yes.
Flow is related to wholeness. There's no sense of lack in that when you're in flow, right? So, um, yeah, I definitely went off on my intro, but so that's,
There
yeah, I
is no
went from
right way
somebody
of
in tech.
introducing yourself, Ethan. I think you're doing awesome.
Yeah, from somebody in tech to coaching, and here we are. And
What
I just wanted to
resonated?
show this comment by Luca.
Oh, that's
Um, Luca is
thank
this
you.
amazing, amazing leader who I've had the pleasure of speaking to a few times, and he's an example of this, because he works in the tech world, right? So he's super smart, and at the same time, when you speak to him, what you really feel is his heart, right? And it's so amazing when you realize the power of this person is. Oh, here he is. Lucas, see if I can invite you on for a moment.
That's beautiful. Finally, pleasure meeting you.
Hello, Luca. And let me know if you're
Hello,
not ready to speak, all
I
right?
heard
In
my
case I put
name,
you on the
so
spot.
so I decided to join you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
welcome. So good to have you here.
Nice to
Yeah,
hear you guys.
yeah,
Always a pleasure to hear you speaking, both of you.
Thank you
yes.
for joining. Of course,
Yeah.
I was able to see your face on a little small side of the screen, but this is definitely better.
Oh
More
yeah, thank
humane
you.
and more full.
Yeah. So Luca, it's so good to have you here because, we're talking about creating from wholeness. It's a very broad topic, but
Very
I'm
good.
wondering for you, when you hear that, what resonates about that topic? How do you relate to
Um,
that?
What it means for me is creating from the depth of my passion. So when I feel passionate, I feel also whole. And when therefore I use this in a creative environment, which more or less what I've been doing most of my life in technology, like you, Dirk. That's when generally it creates this sense of wholeness and engagement at a much deeper level than just the idea.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
and that's why every meeting has to start with a laugh.
Oh, I like
Laughing about,
that.
joking about something, everything.
Wow, this is
In my team, we used to say that if you go on holiday, the first thing you have to do when you come back in the meeting room is show a photo of your holiday, and so something that happened in the holiday was whatever. It's like that's what we used to do.
I love this. Actually, before we start, I shared an invitation with Ethan saying that maybe just to practice what we will talk about, I told him that maybe we can invite everyone to take a minute of silence with us so we can connect to the unit of our hearts. But actually, very synchronistically, you coming in and making us laugh was
Yeah,
another beautiful invitation for us to connect to that inner joy within us so we
yeah.
can start creating from that wholeness. Thank you for
No,
making us
of
smile
course.
and laugh and connect to that inner joy. To me,
Indeed,
this is really
absolutely. Yeah,
wholeness.
yeah, yeah.
and
Joy is the essence of that.
Yes, so true.
yeah, I love what you're saying, Luca, and how would you say, like, how does one do that? Because everybody wants it. It seems everybody would love to be connected with that passion and just have that joy in their work. But there seems to be many things in the way. It's not always so obvious how we can do that. Like, how do you think about it?
Yeah. Yeah, good question. Because I think I've been quite fortunate because I developed a passion when I was a kid, and that passion has become my work and my life. I remember in my 20s, I was just couldn't believe that someone was paying me to do what I was enjoying most. So I was like, my gosh, how that even possible? I would do that for free. So that's
Yes.
so it's hard then to externalize, imagine a different scenario.
Mm,
Um, but
mm,
I think that I would say you need to be ready and courageous to be playful enough, not to fear to be the kid in the room, because that's
Yeah.
been a little bit of my problem. It's always
Yes.
feeling that I'm in a place where everybody's senior and the adults are there in the room, and I this kid playing around and with all this idea, all this naiveness, and feeling a lot always. They are the adults. I'm the kid here. But if you endure that sense, then actually it becomes quite transformative.
mm. Yeah.
Because nobody wants to feel that, and you need to put up, I know these things, and I know how to do that, or I know, everyone to feel like it's important, knows better, but yes, that's not the point.
Yeah. I like how you're pointing people back to childhood. That's a
Mm,
really nice gateway into like a more like a purer way of being.
yeah,
Yes.
Um, we hadn't learned so many things yet. Like, but for me, I know. I mean, I definitely learned a lot of things that became obstacles later on. As a kid, there were still things like I was a very sensitive and shy kid, but even then, it's sort of like something innate in us as a child. We almost can't help it, even when we're sensitive and innate. When we're enjoying something, like we can easily get into
Yes.
something and just enjoy it so much that we forget that
Yes.
I'm supposed to be shy or whatever.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah, absolutely. You forget the unimportant bits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Luca, what you shared reminded me a famous quote from Picasso. I was trying to find it behind the scenes.
Yeah.
He says, "It takes a long time to become young."
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you shared actually one of the best tips and tricks that I have utilized in my personal life multiple times. So whenever I felt like I'm not getting the most joy out of my life and I am in that disconnected state of being, I always ask myself, what's that little small thing that brought me joy when I was a
Yeah.
child? And how can I
Mm,
bring 15 minutes, 30 minutes of that back to my life? So recently, for example, when I've been going through quite a lot of personal transformations, like I was always writing, but in that hustle of life, I literally took that out of my life because I was so busy dealing with so many things. And when I asked a simple question like, what makes me feel like whole, happy, and coming back to our previous conversation, Ethan, I think flow is a beautiful definition. Like, what is that little small thing that you can lose the concept of time and you just let your heart sing? To me, that has always been writing. Like,
Yeah.
whenever I have a
Yeah.
pen or when I'm out in nature, like that's really whatever is in my mind just dissolves. And I just turn out to be a kid again, like playing with animals or in my
Beautiful.
imagination, creating beautiful worlds. And that 30 minutes, I started writing 30 minutes morning pages. It was not, I didn't even know the concept of morning pages, which is an artistic expression. Like this was literally my heart crying because there was so much imbalance in terms of disconnection to many things in my life that I felt like I needed to add more to my love side. And the first thing that I did was really thinking about what brought me joy when I was a child and how can I bring a little small piece of that back to my life. It turned out to be writing for me or spending some time in nature, but this could be very different. So whenever I have similar kind of conversation with my friends, I ask them the same question. Like, if you had all the time in the world, like, what would you do? Or as a child, what brought joy to your life? And as an adult, what did you forget in your life?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
of
Of
them
course.
are like, oh, I
In
need to
fact,
play this instrument.
it's not about what's the quote you just mentioned about Picasso. I
Yeah.
think it's about just remembering how to be a
Yeah.
child. Remember, is already there.
Yeah.
It's just remembering. It's going back.
This may be
mm,
actually remember
Yeah.
a different definition of remembering, remembering. So
Yeah.
it has always been a part of you. You just forget about it and you're just
mm.
bringing it back to that innate wholeness. Beautiful
Yeah. Absolutely.
definition. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I like the way that Ethan, you described the way that you are empowering your clients or your colleagues or your co-creators. It's not about literally changing them, it's bringing more of them to the world, like working with them
Yes.
so that they can bring more of them to the world. And there is this innate wholeness that honors the human dignity and assumes that we are already having all we need, and it just requires us to eliminate the barriers along the way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
hopefully, if we are the only crazy ones in the world, we can still have the courage to shine our light. That's not easy though.
No, of course, absolutely. We put ourselves, we put our own barriers,
Yes.
in that journey. So we often are our worst enemies in that respect.
Yeah, and but probably, you know, but for good reason,
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
and like there's a Japanese game called Katamari. I don't know if you ever heard of that. You're this ball, a sticky ball, and you roll around the place, and everything you roll over, you pick up, right? So,
Oh,
and then
wow.
the ball grows bigger and bigger, and it's got more and more stuff on it. So it's quite, it's a fun game, but it sort of feels like that. Like we have this kind of pure soul in there, and then we go about life and we pick up all these things, and we pick up, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that, and so we pick up all these layers and layers of things. um Derek, were you going to say something?
When you're done.
Oh, okay, yeah. um and it's completely innocent, and it's completely part of life. And then at some point we might find ourselves feeling really heavy, feeling like, I kind of don't know where all this came from. I don't know why I have all this. And it's like that's sort of when you said your heart was crying, that's then you sort of like feel that sort of yeah, you feel that signal or some instinct in you saying that I need to shed something or change something.
Yes. So coming back to this not being easy and us sometimes having some unconscious resistance behind the scenes, this actually made me remember a workshop that I've been a part of. I'm able to find the name and remember some main concepts, but maybe I can add the professor from Harvard's inside the notes when we release this video. The
Mm.
concept was talking about immunity to change. It's really bringing this eternal, evolving dynamic energy of life that brings growth on one side so we can bring more of ourselves and develop ourselves, but the second part is really the part that doesn't want to die, that animal part, that instinctive part that really wants us to belong so that we can survive. And what we are always trying to do is really grow enough that we are still alive, but we can broaden our boundaries and bring more of ourselves or expressions of our souls to the world. But I think he was also nicely highlighting that if we know that this is what's happening, on the one side, we have this need, for example, for belonging and being a part of a community. So we're not really alone. But on the other side, we have our soul's expression that's different than everyone else. And we are here to express those dimensions too. How can you really find the right balance? Or how can you know that some of the assumptions that led you to stick with that belonging side is not relevant anymore? So, from a mind perspective, you can reframe some of the things. I think there are so many different venues that people talk about. It's like in psychotherapy, as a child, you were vulnerable, so you had more need for belonging. So, of course, you had many assumptions about why you need to belong because you are codependent and very much interdependent. But later stages in life, we can be bolder and we can grow more, but we still stick to some of the assumptions that we carry from early stages in our lives. So I think what this framework was really helping us to assume was really what is blocking you? If there's light on this side, there is a resistance on the other side. What can that hidden assumption be? And can you take little small steps to prove that there are things in your life that you can reverse that assumption? So it doesn't have to be big and bold, but start something small. If you have a negative assumption that's really limiting your beliefs, how can you prove that the other side is possible in little small steps? So you eliminate this hidden unconscious break that you always push within you. But this actually also gives us a little bit more understanding in our humanity. It's not always like light, light, and we're just going to grow and everything is going to be easy and I'm just going to be courageous and bold. No, it's a challenging process. And any kind of change requires patience, requires understanding, and really requires lots of compassion and love.
That reminds me very much the subtle balance between acceptance and non-acceptance or action, or the fact that there's so many aspects of yourself that you need to look and accept as they are and embrace them and distinguish or look through those one instead that are really worth trying to change them and trying to, because you can't, there are things that maybe is much better to change, to change, or other that are probably better to accept as they are and embrace them. And that's a very difficult balance that everyone has to find probably along the way.
Yeah, and it seems like there's one way of looking at it where there's this system called internal family systems, and you look at yourself as you recognize that there are different parts in you, right? With this system, and then there's a broader you, which you could call love, and these parts, looking at it in this way, is like these parts were, when they were happy and healthy and whole, they had one function. But when they became fearful, they took on a different role, right? So this same part could be all happy and helping you create, or it can be trying to help you control your life or control the world so that you're safe.
Yeah.
And in that system, it requires love to love this part. So that's the acceptance.
Yes.
And when the part is loved and accepted, it then no longer, that it can release that fear
Yes.
and go back to what it actually wanted to do, which was just to create, right? And so then the two are not in conflict. It's like the acceptance is the path to the creation.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And to me, you also ask another question like, how can we create that wholeness, that acceptance in us? I think it's a very personal journey. There are so many tools out there, and I think we all have some innate intuitive things that can be invitations. Coming back to this question about what made you happy as a child is a good entry point. But another one that I would like to bring into conversation that's so valuable for my personal transformation is yoga. And when I say yoga, it's not really this physical fitness thing that is assumed to be the representation of yoga in the West. To me, yoga is literally an integrated, holistic technology that helps you to transform your body, your mind, and connect to your heart. It's a really that integral system that unites your body, mind, and soul. And the way that it does is literally through the physical practices, which is named as asana. You literally open your body because we have so much things that we carry in us, and bodies really carry that tension. So, through the opening of your body with the practices, you open space. And through the opening of the space, you start breathing deeper. And through breathing deeper, you can control your nervous system better. And once you can calm your monkey mind, you can connect to that inner heart, that playful child in you that's always there, that's always at peace, that's always loving and knowing and trusting life. And to me, literally opening up space through this practice, and I really appreciated the interconnectedness of the practice. Like, as someone coming back to our introductions, Ethan, like it was not easy for me just to sit there and just do nothing for 2 hours,
Mhm.
but warming up my body, like moving that tension in my body so that my mind can calm down through the breathing patterns in the yoga. And at the end, I was able to feel that innate wholeness, even for a limited time. So, for the ones especially who are practicing in the Western world where we are dominant so much in our minds, I always found yoga as an amazing entry point to calm the mind through some movements in the body so that you can connect to that inner wholeness. And whatever problem that you are trying to solve, then you can see it from a total different perspective. And I especially do this when I feel like I'm under stress. Like, it's counterintuitive. You just feel like I don't have time. Whenever I feel like I don't have time tension in me, I say I need 30 minutes of time just to eliminate that tension. And it works like magic because it changes my wiring and that inner presence that I'm able to see many more different opportunities that were not present before. Because I was like this before, like stress, coming back to your definition of this, we are sticking to one thing, and being afraid really makes you limited and it doesn't allow you to see the big picture and different opportunities. Once you realize that, if you can just take time off and disseminate its energy in different shape or form, like out in nature, like playing music, dancing, writing, for me, like doing yoga, whatever is making you connect to that inner calmness, once again, from that point, whatever you create is a total different energy. And to me, it's a nice trick. Like, whenever you feel like intuitively something is not working, that is the moment that you need to go beyond that limitation and take the time for creating that space for the transformation to happen. And critical thing is knowing that it's not going to be easy. Like, you just have to say like, oh, I don't have time. But whenever you feel like the pressure is there and you just don't have time, that is the medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That has been medicine personally for me.
I love the principle
Yeah.
that urgency, a sense of urgency, means you need to slow down.
Yes. We were in
Yeah.
business school. Just a quick note from one of my friends. Actually, I've been always interested in yoga, but I think I was not really crushed by life till at Harvard Business School that I didn't really prioritize it in my life. But at business school, I prioritized yoga for the first time because life was so intense that I didn't have the luxury of not prioritizing yoga. And this was actually one of my friends, Justin Zagi. We were doing yoga together, and this was his favorite thing. He was saying that life is so busy that I don't have time to neglect yoga
Yeah.
because it's such an important medicine. Sorry,
Yeah.
Ethan.
Yeah. Um, no, I thought that would be great. Question that came to me was like, maybe we could each of us share what has helped each of us to create from wholeness more, let's say over the last few years.
Sorry,
Um,
what was the question?
what has
What
helped
was?
you to
Ah,
create from wholeness? What has helped you the most in that regard, would
I
you
think I
say?
have already shared. So
Yeah, okay, yoga for you.
I will pass it over to you,
Yeah,
Ethan.
okay. To create from wholeness. Hmm. I think I'll speak at a higher level first, which is like the intention. Firstly, the intention to create from wholeness, and that came about through recognizing the difference and recognizing when I was creating from wholeness and when I wasn't, and just noticing.
And can you
Firstly,
elaborate more on the difference, please, for the one
yeah, yeah.
who would like to understand it better?
One example was, let's say, when I was trying to start up my coaching business and trying to uh, get my first few clients, and that was definitely creating from lack.
Yes.
It's like I need to get a client. It's taking so long, etc., etc. How do I do that? Do I know what I'm doing? I don't know what I'm doing. So there was a lot of fear and lack and so forth about that. And then I studied the strategies, the best strategies. I was very in my mind and trying to script out what I would say and so forth. And it had a certain feeling to it, which was like, it didn't feel good. It felt like there was, yeah, tension in me.
Yes.
And then the other way, whenever I just somehow, maybe I was just so connected with the client or the person that I was just thinking about them. I was connected with their heart. I was I wasn't thinking about getting a client anymore, right? I was just with them in their world and really um, wanted to support them, and that had a completely different feeling. And so the feeling was a huge thing. Just noticing, wow, I would much rather do it that way.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was it also created different results, right? Because who wants a needy coach? I mean, right?
That's a good
I mean,
question.
seriously, and yeah, and if I'm in here, I have no space to be with anybody else,
Yeah.
right? So that the my ability to support them was very different when I was creating from wholeness. And then I noticed the same thing. Once I had a feel for that, I noticed the same thing spreading out into other things. Just talking to people regularly, or writing. Writing used to be this really painful thing. It took me an hour just to write, like, a couple paragraphs if I wanted to share something, because I was trying so hard to write, but I had all this noise in there and all this lack and all this, well, I don't know how do I
Yeah.
make it good? How do I make sure? So I had all these, I wasn't even aware that I had so much baggage in me. But when I was able to just clear that and like connect, you know, get present, listen, what is it that's really coming through that I want to say? and then it started to flow so much easier. Yeah, so those kinds of experiences um, helped me to then, it became obvious to me, like, this is what I want. Everything's better. Life is better. I feel better. I create better. I serve better. Like, this is what I want. And so setting that intention then meant that, I went to get coaches or whatever I read, the books on spirituality and all that really took on a very practical level of meaning, because I saw that this is not just some nice, thing I do on Sundays or whatever, and I read a bit of poetry by Rumi. No, this is actually about life. This
Yes,
is actually about me in every moment of my life and how I live. So that's how I would say. That's what's helped the most.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. How about you, Luca?
I think for me, I think to create, to be creative, the first thing is for me is to get just anchored in the sense of direction, in sense of trust, that the sense of fundamental trust that the direction I'm going is the
Right.
one, and that will help to create that sense of that's going is not to take things too seriously.
Yeah.
So not to think, oh, I'm in this direction, and now this has to come, and that's the outcome that I expect from me, or this is going to happen. And I think just that's too serious, and that's limit your horizon somehow. So not taking yourself seriously in that journey, it's very essential. I think very important. I think that's allows just to be a bit more, more spacious and free and playful, basically, with with your ideas, with what come up. And I think that helped me a lot in being able to be in spaces that are not clear, unknown, where there are not clear answer or nobody knows exactly. That's what innovation is. Sometimes is
Yes.
getting in that kind of space with, all right, so okay, it's fine. Nobody knows, but we'll figure it out. I think with that kind of spirit, and that's
Yeah.
lead to beautiful creative things.
Mm. Yeah. So so if I wanted to picture that, like for you, Luca, like a group of executives, and you're trying to decide on a strategy or something, so you would be very aware about how it feels. Like, are we like, oh, come on, we need to get this right. Why don't we have something? So you would be very aware of that, and be aware of the energy that you bring to it, to have it more be about play, and knowing that, hey, if we just, like, if we come together, we know something's going to happen. Like if we
Yes,
come.
exactly. The worry somehow is
Yeah.
so limiting. In a room, the worry and the tension. Oh my God, what's going to happen? It's so limiting. It's so self-limiting. Yeah. So you need to diffuse that, or
Mm,
at least mitigate that. It's like it's going to
yeah.
be okay.
I
It's going to be
love
okay.
your inner child that always bring this playfulness dimension, and that's so
Yeah.
true. Like, it doesn't have to, when we really talk about wholeness and connecting to the unity, we're always thinking and talking about this utterless innate like meditative state, but I'm also very much into this dynamism of bringing all of life into existence, and I
Yeah.
can really
Yeah.
feel that energy. Like, an inner child, that child in you is welcoming everything in the world without really any limitations, any fears. That doesn't necessarily mean that things are not going to go bad, but you know that it's a part of life, and you have inner courage just to learn from it. And when a child falls down, they just immediately just stand up, just maybe cry, sometimes laugh, but through that literal transformation, they just continue in life. And
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah,
true. If
absolutely.
anyone
Yeah.
can embody that courage and just bring that innocence back, to me, that's such an important demonstration of the inner wholeness that we carry inside us if we can just connect and then
Yeah.
hopefully bring
Yeah.
more of
Yeah.
it to the world. That's beautiful.
I think, I mean, I must say, again, once again, I've been quite lucky in this respect, because I think I managed somehow to transfer that kind of spirit
Yes.
to my children, and my son, one of them in particular, which took that to a certain extreme, and now he's teaching, remind me back about that kind of.
So you have your
playfulness.
own mirrors.
I
That's
have
beautiful.
my own always present coach in my life, which is my son,
Yeah.
Yeah, Luca,
which
that
is
is
an
just.
adventurer, and Ethan knows about that and the kind of things that.
I think
But yeah,
it's.
it's a good reminder, and it's always a good yeah.
Yeah,
But
Luca, if you would be. Sorry, Drew.
please.
Yeah, I was gonna just invite Luca, like, if you wanted to just share in brief, like, what your son, like, how your son creates from wholeness. I think it's really remarkable.
Yeah, so well, it's obviously been always a bit of an adventurer, and spent some time in Japan and doing all kind of adventure. But he was inspired, and one day he came to us and said, "You know what, Mom and Dad," he was 22, 23. He said, "Mom and Dad, thank you very much. You've done a fantastic job until now. Now I'm taking it from here. So I'm going to spend some time now to doing this special. We call it in different ways, but in a more modern ways, this social experiment. I'm going to live without money for how long that. So I'm going to refuse any kind of money. I won't transact on money. I know you won't use money anymore. I will experiment this concept of the gift economy. And so he started this, and first doing it around around where we live, and we couldn't see for days. And he's basically was living with, interacting with people, finding opportunities along the way, and trusting completely in that life will bring you food, accommodation, and everything else, and giving freely his help to any place he could find. So the concept was not even any transaction, just a
Yeah.
pure gift. And so he took that to, and then he traveled through Europe in this way, and most recently did from the coast of New York, I think, to Los Angeles in 1 month. Again, purely experimenting, and and day by day. So that was his experiment. With for some parents or like us, could be a bit worrying sometimes, especially because he has diabetes type 1. So
Wow.
yeah, and
So
that's why this adventure. And just to make it the things a bit more fun, just you've done some of this traveling from one place to another, starting from with nothing. And what does say nothing? I mean, not even the clothes, so
he
naked.
started he
wow.
started naked on a beach, or something
Yeah,
like that.
in fact, he started naked on a beach in New York, and say, okay, let's find clothes first. Who can, just ask. And the fact is that the generosity of people is just amazing when you trust in it. When you are ready to risk everything, then some miracles happen. So he called himself a miracle worker. That's what he's
Wow,
doing.
my heart is so full and such a wise human being. He is in early 20s and showing the trust, love, and surrender to the world that many of us wouldn't be able to do at
I
this
know,
stage in our
exactly.
lives. Like,
Yeah,
I
indeed.
am so hopeful from the newer generations, younger generations, and this is to me literally the definition of creating from wholeness.
Yeah,
He is
yeah,
leading with that inner wholeness
yeah,
and then letting life to mirror that confidence and trust and surrender back to him in the form
yeah,
of that
yeah, of
love that
course.
he's able to hold. He
Yeah.
just has this assumption that universe is abundance and
Yes,
human beings
totally.
are good in
Yeah,
nature and
yeah,
I'm whole. I have everything that I need in me and I don't need clothes. I don't need a job. I don't need money. And
yeah,
just with that wholeness, he's just able to surrender. And the phenomenal thing is he has some healthcare issues that might be even more limiting from an, let's say, capacity or capability point of view, but
yeah.
he is just so brave that even that didn't really made him identify like he's lacking something. Amazing.
Yes,
I am sending him
really
lots
fun.
of love.
Thank you.
And I hope one day he blesses us with his presence at one point too. I
Yeah,
would love to meet him.
Yes.
I'm sure he'll be very happy to share his
Wow.
experiences. Yeah.
Such an inspiring story. Full stop. Mic drop. Nothing more to say beyond this.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
what it means to create from wholeness.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's incredible. And you said like he's been like he's had to have influenced you, right? You see him and you see his example, Luca, and how has it impacted you?
Yeah, I'm just saying, I really, we talked about a little bit some of the principles and some of the guiding things, like, when you want something, ask for it, and ask for it in the most spiritual or practical way.
Mm,
But then be happy for be grateful for whatever comes after. You may not get it, or you may get it. It doesn't matter. Gratefulness is at the heart of this, and other of these discussions. And I was actually trying to think. So how can I live in this way, but in the business world? So how
Yes.
can I apply the same principles and the same concepts, in the business? So how can I bring this kind of trust, direction, and yeah, this approach to life in a business. So that's a challenge. That's
yes.
really a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we're sometimes we hear these concepts and we think, okay, that's great. I'm gonna live like that. But
Yeah,
then when the fear sets in, that's when it's like, well, shouldn't do I really need to feel the fear? Maybe I can do this without feeling the fear, right?
no, you can't. And so,
Yeah, that's
unfortunately,
the thing.
you have to embrace that too,
Yeah, that's the
and be
thing.
grateful for that too. That's the key.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been asking the
Mm,
same question, and no one has a clear answer. I think this requires a lot of experimentation, how we can bring back this concept into the world, and specifically business world. And I was talking about how business world is one of the most prominent agents for change, given its power in the world. If we can really integrate a couple of these principles into the business, then
Yeah.
that can change everything. And I see multiple venues of implication. One implication is literally the relationship of the company with the employees from a cultural point of view. It's still so transactional. And we just have to lock people with contracts and stuff like that. It comes with this fear like, he's going to leave, she's going to leave, I'm going to make that person sign an uncompete and all this stuff. Like, it's literally taking everything out of that communal mindset or this dedication and passion mindset and making things in a contractual term is the first thing that came to my mind. But there are like tremendous things that we can discuss as reflections of this limited mindset or transactional mindset between the company and the employees. That's one angle. The other angle is personally for me is the company and the customers. It's again like very
Yeah.
transactional. Like, you're gonna give me first, then I'm gonna give you. We are gonna negotiate the terms because I don't trust you, because you don't trust me. There is no innate wholeness. And as a product manager, or used to be a product person or product leader too, I am very sensitive in the way that we create technologies too. Let's use, for example, social media. It's such an important demonstration of the state of consciousness that created these products is really impacting the world. It's again attention economy. Attention really means that I need to get admiration or approval from other people because I'm not whole. Like, I like my self-worth. And it created this ecosystem with advertising and everything benefiting from it because like I don't feel whole. So I need to fill my life with all these things and all many other things just to make me feel like I'm pretty enough, I'm intelligent enough, I am worthy or wealthy enough just to prove that I deserve to be here. Again, it's such a mindset shift because we created things from the state of being that we are, which is lack of love, lack of self-worth. Then the products we create, the
Yeah.
cultures we create, the relationships that we build with our customers is so broken. It's so
Yeah.
transactional, it's so short term. Then we are trying to control everything with legalities and wars and like conflicts and struggles. Like, what if We create a
Yeah,
totally new
absolutely.
system based on that wholeness
Mm.
that your son is demonstrating beautifully. But if you build communities with your customers instead of just making transactional interactions, what if you treat your employees as if they are your family members, like seriously, instead of locking them with contracts? What if you lock their hearts with their passion, with your dedication to your vision and mission? It's a totally different thinking.
Yeah, it is absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And there is sometimes it's quite simple. At least there are some simple steps that we can make to to go along that way. And again, I'm still referring to some discussion I had with him, and he was saying that how you can think about when you pay something. You say basically don't never pay for something or for a service or product, never pay, but think as this as a gift for the
Yes.
next one. So shift by one day. So I receive something, and that's for free. Now, what I give you money for is so that you can give that gift to the next one.
That's
So
beautiful.
that's a way of just simply shifting that thinking. It's already very powerful.
Yes.
Mm.
If
True
you go
that
in,
our
yeah, sorry.
please.
No, in fact, it reminds me there's a concept in Italy, in Naples. If you go in the street, there are places where you can buy coffee, and often you buy a coffee and you pay double
The
because you
next
pay one for
person.
yours and one for the next person.
That's beautiful.
And then
One more reason to love
yeah.
Italy. I love everything about Italian culture.
Mm.
So yeah, that's one of the principle that you can maybe use to shift the mindset.
That's a very powerful one. Very
Mm,
practical, very easy.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm wondering then, like, what somebody's listening to this, um, what can we, maybe how can we help them firstly to notice where they may not be creating from wholeness? Um, yeah, maybe that might be helpful, and then we can
I think
before
you
we wrap up.
already talked about the feeling. That's the reason that I actually consciously ask you to elaborate more of it, because I think that
Mm.
is universal. The behavioral might be different for all of us, but the internal feeling that we all feel is very universal, given the nature of humanity. You literally feel like you are restricted. Something feels heavy, something feels
Mm, yeah.
limiting and like dark and fragmented. You just feel anxious because everything is so out of harmony. And you just cannot pinpoint what that thing maybe is, but you just feel something is lacking, something is missing. And
Yeah.
you just feel it in your body. You cannot
Mm.
breathe deep, like your posture turns out to
Yeah.
be even like closing down. And whenever you have that thing, like in a space that really makes you limited, in a mindset that really makes you anxious and fragmented and out of order, to me, that is the invitation saying, like, you are out of order. Do something that's going to bring you back to order. Open up space. And to me, it's when I say do something, it's very counterintuitive. It's actually ideally either
Mm,
flow in the form of whatever flow means for you, so that you can come back to that inner coherence through whatever ignites your heart, be it dancing or in this case nature or yoga, whatever, or literally just calm down to open up space in nature. For nature has a really amazing rhythm because of its calm natural cycle. If you literally spend 15 minutes or 30 minutes without you doing nothing, it calms you down and brings back that inner unity. And the way that I think you realize that is really this opening, just opening. At least that's what I can tell in terms of how we know from a human experience whether we are creating from love or from fear. And love is always it doesn't have this I need to do this immediately mindset. It trusts. It knows that things are going to unfold in its own time. It's longer term. You don't have this pressure in you too, and you can create with that inner joy that Luca was always talking about. It's trust, playful, and whenever you feel like you're in the joy of creation, you are
yeah, of
creating from
course. Yeah.
wholeness.
Are you having fun?
Exactly. So if you really feel like something is not fun and I'm not having that joy and that inner child in me is not smiling, I'm not laughing,
Yeah.
that
That's
is
why
the
I left
sign.
my previous job,
Yes.
my last job. exactly for that reason. Yeah,
Yes. So you had a feeling that something was off.
absolutely, yes, indeed. Yeah,
Mm,
that kind of exactly what Durok is saying. That kind of that doesn't sound good.
yeah. And was there, because you may have that feeling, but sometimes we can tolerate that feeling for years.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
indeed. And then you realize why I did so long, why it took so long. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So on that one, I actually have a trick because I think I might have compromised more than I needed to do. Everyone does
Mm,
that. It's a part of our
yeah.
human growth and learning development journey. I did it in my own terms, but what lesson I learned was really right now it's again a balance. Like when I sometimes a natural part of being a human is literally being receptive to what's happening around you because you are connected to the whole. For example, right now, regardless of how happy I am with my own lifestyle because of what's happening in the world. I'm not going through an easy time. I think we all are as human beings if you're really sensitive enough to live with an open heart. So, knowing that you are a sensitive human being, sometimes I question is this contextual? Like, is this really related to what's happening in the world? Is this really what's happening in my life? Maybe like my parents are going through a separation, like whatever that thing is. If it's really like linked to some consequential things related to what is happening in my life, then I feel like maybe I don't need to urge to take an action. I give myself quite a lot of contemplation time and testing time to see whether this is internal or external. And if the same feeling, let's say coming back to Lucas thing, like I'm not happy with my work, but it has been really like a prolonged time that it has nothing to do with what's happening in the world. It has nothing to do with my own state of being. Indeed, I am very happy outside of work, but when I come to the work, that is the time where things started to reverse. To me, that has been the answer. Like, do I really have enough stabilization and wholeness in my life to have enough discernment to know that this is coming from my relationship with the work? And it requires a little bit conscious contemplation and maybe stabilization of yourself in your own wholeness so you can identify where those disturbing things in your life are and then hopefully eliminate it with grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ethan, you
Mm.
are deeply in contemplation. Whatever is emerging from you, I would love to hear within the last few minutes we have.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always a lot of wisdom in the feeling. And it really requires the space to feel it. And I remember there was this tech leader who reached out, and when we spoke, he expressed so much frustration, but it was just a whole bundle of frustration. But he needed the space to express that. And then after he had expressed that, then he was started slowing down, and then he could share some specific thing that happened when he had made some commitments, and then his boss just asked him to just cancel those commitments, do this thing, and he was so frustrated, but then he did it, and then he felt even worse. And when he had the space to slow down, he checked in with himself. The wisdom was telling him, what I really want to do was to say, no, I won't do that. um, Here's why. Here's the reasons. You can fire me or
Yes.
not, but I'm happy with who I am and how I am approaching this. And when he said that in the conversation, he just realized,
Mm,
it's like, oh, okay, this was the thing that was fighting to get out and fighting to be felt and to be heard. And he needed that space to to have that clarity. It has to be processed.
Well, we only have one more minute, but this was such an amazing way to literally create from wholeness with lots of laugh and lots of playful exploration. Luca,
Yeah.
thank you very much for joining. Thank you for bringing your inner child that often does, and thank you for sharing your son's inspiring journey. To me,
thank you.
that
Thank
is
you
the
for,
literal definition of creating from wholeness, from trust, from love,
yeah.
from surrender.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's really
Yeah.
nice to have a chat with you.
Thank you, Luca. Yeah, we loved having you here. We didn't actually ask you if you wanted to stay the whole hour, but I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful. Yeah, thank you, Daruk.
Any final words from anyone else?
I just think that this topic is, so relevant now, and for each of us, anybody who hears this, you may not agree with everything we said, but I invite you to just reflect on what it means for you to create from wholeness and let the feeling guide you. That's what I want to say.
Beautiful invitation.
Play more.
Play more.
Yes, I wanted to hear this. Yes. Now we can close.
In
Thank you.
all possible ways.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Bye,
you very
everyone.
much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.